ShoreTel Connect Cloud is now MyCloud Connect.
Thanks, everybody, and welcome to the Mitel Connect Telephony for Microsoft demo and presentation. Dan Cristofano and I will be running you through a demonstration and presentation on why this product is so strong for those of you who are using Skype for Business or Link in your enterprises today. And we will take questions if you chat those in and answer them as quickly as possible. My name is Dan Nemechek. I'll be your MC. I've been here at Mitel for around 13 years. Dan's been here for a long time as well, and we do a lot of these, but we want to make sure that we answer all of your questions, but keep this to a demo type environment and show you more about the product and how it interacts than making it super technical. So without further ado, let's talk about what we're going to talk about. The Connect Telephony for Microsoft product is a single interface that manages your business communications. It's for people with a primary collaboration client in Skype for Business or Link, and it's compatible with both versions of Skype for Business / Link, whether it's online or the premise version. What we're looking to do is pull in the features that Microsoft Skype for Business lacks. Us being a heritage company that started in telephony and built telephony and contact centers and voice communications, whereas Microsoft comes from an office type suite and operating system world where everything is done at the desktop with software. We're going to bring in those key features like calling and transfer, all of these that you see here, as well as and deep as allowing you to use our soft phone from Connect and have a really strong desktop experience with Link or Skype, yet hook it into a world-class telephony product. Why would you do this, and what are the deployment models? Again, aimed at those customers using Link or Skype for Business, but have found challenges in the telephony world. Anything from how do I ring up a door buzzer to how do I page somebody over an overhead speaker, how can I make a hunt group or what we call a call distribution list for receptionists or agents. Some big pain points in the Microsoft world, as again, it's a desktop collaboration suite, an office productivity suite, not a voice productivity tool. So there's just four deployment models that should be positioned and considered if you're out there and you're using Skype for Business today, and you're a Mitel customer and you're looking to bring that over. And that's on the Connect platform, I should point out. All phones on ShoreTel phones, or now known as Mitel phones in the Connect line, but we can have a mix of Skype for Business desktops and the Mitel Connect desktops. Now you have all of your 400 or 200 series phones from Heritage ShoreTel, now currently Mitel, with everybody on the desktop using Skype for Business and Link. All right. The deployment model number 3 that we'd probably want to see you do is just look at all ShoreTel phones with all ShoreTel Connect on the Mitel platform, Mitel Connect platform, and there would be no use of Microsoft Skype in that model, but you're probably considering this because you've already distributed Skype to your enterprise. And in that case, if you've done that, there's no support for us saying, okay, put this office on a ShoreTel Connect, Mitel Connect product, link it over here to a Microsoft Skype setting, and have interoperability calling, Polycom phones on the Skype side to the ShoreTel side. This has been a supported method Microsoft has done for years. It's become harder and harder for us to stay up on. And the decision going forward has just been that is, so few people did that with success that we've just decided these methods are the best way. So, preferably one of these combinations of having the Mitel phones with the Skype for Business product using Connect for telephony. And that pretty much points out the best ways and the easy ways to deploy. And without further ado, there's no questions, so I'm going to turn it over to the master demonstrator, Dan Cristofano, to show us real time what the Mitel Microsoft Telephony Connector looks like.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. I appreciate that introduction, and it's always key to understand the business case and the use cases in which we want to apply the Mitel Connect telephony for Microsoft solution. I actually have already logged in and have that showing on my desktop right now. You'll probably notice that we have a new frame docked to the bottom of the Skype for Business client. This is our Mitel Connect telephony plugin, and it provides for me a number of functions that we're going to cover in the demonstration portion of our discussion this afternoon. So let's begin by navigating and understanding the elements of the tool. We'll make and take a few calls. We'll talk about call handling as we go through this. Let's begin by clicking on the Mitel logo right here in the upper right-hand corner of that new frame. And what I like about the refreshed interface is it's compact, but it's simple, it's straightforward, and it's tremendously useful. The first thing that you're able to do is select what device you want this to control. As you'll see, I'm currently controlling my desk phone. I could select for my endpoint a soft phone and turn this into a soft phone capability, plug in my USB headset. I'm ready to make and take calls. Or, and this is directly from the Mitel Connect suite of features, I could select an external assignment number. Most people would think of that as their cell phone, but really it should be thought of as any directly dialable number that you have control of. So once you make that selection, you do not have to do this each and every time you boot your computer. The client, along with the plugin, will remember your choice, but it's nice to know that you can make a change on the fly as needed. Right below that, an area we'll actually visit in a few moments, but not at this time, is the settings area. There's a special place I want to visit when we come back to settings, and obviously I have the ability to log out. Now, if I were to log out, I can arrange for this to start automatically with my credentials when I pre-store them and when I start the computer. So that's actually an option. Many users prefer that because they've already got their Skype for Business client set up to do that. It's something just to keep in mind as you go through the use and the process of putting this into your environment. Just as a reminder, to install this locally, you yourself, if you're not in an organization that's being managed by an IT environment, you yourself would have to have local administrative rights. However, this can also be distributed quite easily through a GPO process that your IT department can handle for you. Beginning on the left-hand side, let's take a look at a couple of things. Number one, you see my status in my Skype for Business client up here at the top. It indicates that I'm in a meeting, which happens to match with my status as shown inside the Mitel Connect telephony plugin. So if I click this little triangle to the right of that, it will actually display for you the choices and therefore the selections that I can make. Now, this activity or availability can be mapped to my calendar status, so that makes it very easy. But there are times when I might need to alter my status on the fly. I can make myself available. Obviously, I'm in a meeting. We see the check mark there. There are other choices. One I'd like to call out, which is a new addition to the refresh, is custom. When I select custom, I can actually select a custom color. Now that, of course, is going to be in reference to my plugin, and I can also type in a custom status. So this is important for those that are working inside that mixed environment and where you may have deployed a full Connect client tool for your operator, for example, so that he or she can see multiple availabilities of many people, and therefore this information in the custom note would be applicable in that environment. For our purposes today, I'm actually going to simply place myself in the available mode, and that way we can make and take calls. So we see that it not only changes here, but it also toggles my availability status inside Skype for Business. So tremendously helpful, easy to use. I think that's one of the other key messages here. We are only taking control of the telephony aspect. As Dan mentioned in the introductory remarks, we are coming to this with a heritage of 20 plus years in the telephony side of the house. We understand the users. We understand what they require and expect to be able to bring to bear in terms of telephony features. That's the strength. We also recognize that the users to whom we are talking today are probably utilizing for unified communications an environment that's already in place as well, the Skype for Business, for desktop sharing, for instant messaging. That's why we're leaving that inside of the Skype for Business environment. We're extracting and augmenting the capabilities from the telephony perspective. So we can start that with a little navigation through the plugin. Obviously, you can probably determine that many of these icons are easily explained visually. So we can see right there, that's a keypad. If I click on that, the keypad raises itself up and allows me to dial as if I were on the phone. This is great to have if you have selected soft phone, although I have folks who actually control their desk phone and yet still use this. But that's not the only way to dial. Clearly, you can put in a name or a number directly above that and find individuals that you want to talk to, whether those are contacts that are internal or external. You see, here's Dan. He's in a meeting with us, obviously. So I can just go ahead and, backspace that out if I want to and return to the open search window. Moving to the right, something else that's taken place in the refresh has been the idea that the icon will light up blue as you hover over it. We'll see later on in a live call that there's actually a background to the icon so that you can look and see visually exactly what icon you're about to activate. It seems like a tiny change, but folks, let me tell you how important that is when you're doing many, many things during the course of a business day. When I click on my history, we can see that my recent calls include not only all of them as I scroll forward and backward in history, but the direction is defined by a new color-coded arrow system on the left-hand side. Notice that as I scroll through this list, I see an opportunity to call. That now appears as I go through it. So rather than have everything with a telephone icon on the right-hand side, the icon appears appropriate for the call that you want to perhaps redial. I think that's so important. In fact, let's launch our first call. Let's click on that. We're going to make a call. My desk phone actually just went off hook. We are, in fact, dialing the atomic clock, WWV, or the call letters in Fort Collins, Colorado, one of my favorite test numbers. As that call connects, we have complete call control here. I can mute my physical phone by clicking on this icon. It will then change color. You can see that if I need to input digits during a call, this is available from the keypad. Other things that I can do, notice that as I mouse over each of these, they turn with a backgrounded blue button, so I know exactly what's going on. Something that is new to this interface, but not really new to the feature set, is the idea of move call. Now I can take this call, again, taking advantage of the Mitel Connect suite of features from a telephony perspective, and move this call seamlessly to my mobile device, for example. So it makes it very easy to continue that conversation with your most important customer. You can put the call on hold. You'll see that we now have a different status color outlining that button. Again, a visual indication that that call is on hold. To retrieve that, just go ahead and click on that icon again. It toggles back to an active state. So very simple, very easy to do that. When we're done with that call, we can go ahead and hang up. In a few moments, we'll go ahead and do a couple of calls after we take a look at what an incoming call looks like in just a moment.
Hey, Dan, there is a question.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, please.
The question is, how do our functions affect the Skype for Business functions? In other words, I'm assuming they're asking if I click on someone in a group that's actually in the Skype for Business, can I still do a Skype for Business call, or does that override that?
That's actually a great question, and I think the best way to answer it actually is to open a contact card. We're going to borrow yours here, Dan. If we open yours and we actually go ahead and double click on you, your contact card will come up. This does two things. Number one, it allows me to continue to utilize and call via the Skype for Business environment by selecting that icon. I can utilize the More Options menu to select and choose another way to call you. You'll see here that this indicates the ShoreTel, now Mitel ability to make the call that way. But I can call you via Mitel Connect without even accessing that menu by simply coming down here, because you see that there's been another frame spawned and appearing right below your contact card. This will dial with your Mitel, with my Mitel line, and call you. Now, because you happen to have more than one way to be connected in terms of telephony, that black arrow allows me to select the particular phone that I want to use. If I make no alternate selection, it will select the business line that you use, and we can call you that way. So the answer is, we still permit calls from a Skype for Business perspective. They would call it voice over IP, so you would utilize that icon. For calling through the Mitel Connect, utilize the associated icon at the bottom of the card.
That's great. I think that really stresses something I've talked about when we talk about even CRM integrations with Salesforce or Microsoft Dynamics as well, is that we allow the end user to work in the environment they want to work in. So if you were to roll this out to a customer as an IT staff, and that customer still wanted to use Skype for Business because they do a lot of global conversations and they don't know if the numbers exist on the other side of the world, they can still continue to use their Skype collaboration and not be forced into something. So that is a very open way to do this. I appreciate the answer.
Glad to help out. So let's go ahead. We'll continue our navigational journey. We've got an incoming call I want to demonstrate and some things about conferencing. When we last were looking at this, we were looking at my call history. We actually dialed out from that call history. The other thing that typically takes place is when you have an inbound call, you might choose to deflect that call to voicemail, or if your availability is such that you can't take a live call, the call goes to voicemail. And of course, you can imagine this new icon indicates my voicemail history. So I just simply click on this, and here I have all of my voicemails that have accumulated. Now, if I've moved a voicemail, I've decided to save it or to delete it, then that's how it appears on the other two menus. Let's select this voicemail, for example. Now, the reason that I'm choosing this one, obviously, is because, it was, yes, another phone call from a phone that is assigned to me. However, it does provide me an opportunity to share with you the other options. Once you click on the voicemail, you have an immediate ability to play the voicemail. Now, playing the voicemail in this case will play it through your selected endpoint. So if you selected desk phone in the morning, then it will play through the desk phone. If you selected soft phone, it'll play it through that endpoint. So the message here is the playback will occur through the device that you have selected to use for your connection that particular day. Call it back. I've absorbed the caller ID. I can launch a callback from there. If I have the More menu, here is where I can save it. I can download the voicemail as a WAV file, so it's very easy to do that. If I choose to delete it, it will actually move it to the deleted folder, and I'll see it show up here. So here's an example of a couple that I've deleted. Those that I've saved appear on the Saved menu, and this still makes it very simple to download the WAV file by simply accessing that. Now, once I've moved it to a Saved menu, I can still do all of the functions that we saw previously. The difference is that the More menu is augmented, if you will, by the simple arrow that allows me to directly download that voicemail. And that's really what I've got in terms of the general navigation. I think we're actually getting a call here. Let me see what we have coming in here. Let's see. I hear that phone ringing in the background. Let's see what we've got. So we've got a call coming in, folks. Notice that I have an indication of an incoming call. It changes color. I can choose to transfer that call. I can send it directly to voicemail, or in this case, we're going to go ahead and answer that call. Once I do that, I've got control of the call. So we see the call control that we saw previously during our outbound call. In this case, we have it for the inbound call. Now, as is often the case, sometimes you manage to get more than one call at the same time. So if that's the case, here's what that scenario would look like. I like to bring this up because let's be reasonable and let's be real. Folks are managing a lot of things in the business world today, and typically that's a lot of customer interactions as well. Here's our incoming call from Dominic. We can just click answer. I don't have to worry about what my first caller has going on because they have been automatically placed on hold. In fact, we can see that confirmed for us. Again, our new color status to visually indicate what's going on with the various calls. When I click here and then unhold that call, it's like toggling, what used to be called a broker's call, as I toggle back and forth between the two calls I'm managing. Sometimes we have to take those two folks that called me and combine us all into a three-way conference. So again, you can go back and forth as long as you need to, toggling folks as needed. If you have to tie them together, it's even easier. Take one call, drag it over the other one. And now we have a conference of myself and my two callers shown here by name. Now, if I have two, that's easy. And see that list of names. If I have more, that list of names is going to run off the screen. That is why we have this tool right here. The participant arrow will show you everyone who is participating in this conference call. So that's very handy. And you can, of course, collapse it again. Now, when I'm done with this call, if I were to hang up and leave those two folks on the call, they would remain connected. Again, remembering that we come from the heritage telephony side of the house. We understand the real world as it refers to voice communications. We're bringing that experience into the Skype for Business environment with this plugin. Once that call is finished, let's go ahead and hang up all of our participants. And I want to mention to you that, as you probably have already derived, that call too has just gone into my call history. Now, what I like about that is the way call history can be used to reestablish a call. So we talked about this earlier. We talked about the fact that as I mouse over this history, an opportunity to dial that person back comes up. Did you know I also can do that with a conference call? Now, all I have to do to reestablish that call with both of those parties is click once. A call will be launched initially to the first party. When they answer the call, and they are on the line with me, a second call will be initiated automatically to the other party. And the next thing you know, we've just reestablished that conference call basically with a single click. Now, folks, that's powerful stuff when it comes to managing telephony interactions, utilizing the Mitel Connect telephony plugin for Microsoft. Dan, I want to take us into the settings area. Before I do that, do we have any questions in the queue?
Yeah, I have a couple here I think we should probably hit now before we go into that. And the first one is would this be a good solution for an operator? I have my own opinion, but what do you think? What would be the story you would tell to someone that was an operator for a, multi-site business with maybe 200 users?
And that's a great illustration and undoubtedly a real world scenario, because one of the things that I think is not present in the Skype for Business client natively is the ability to see a large panel display of various folks and their availability. And when you see that as it refers to call management, that's where I think we come up a little bit short, which is one of the reasons why I recommend the plugin for the standard user. And I'm going to guess that you might suggest a more full Connect experience for the operator. Am I right?
Yeah, that's exactly why I was talking about early, the deployment scenario of a mixed group of Connect clients with Skype for Business clients. And there again, if your life revolves around transferring calls, putting calls on hold, customer support calls, and sort of an ACD queue, that sort of world, hunt groups, I would see you as that person as a full-blown ShoreTel Mitel Connect user, so they could take advantage of all of the full telephony feature sets, and just like you said, build their groups out based on phone numbers, drag and drop transfers, complete telephony presence. That would be a strength there, and then that way they could work the way their life works, and you pointed that out very well. So I think you're right. I think for the day-to-day collaborator, office, intellectual worker, engineers, financial people, sales people, Skype for Business with the Mitel Connect telephony for Microsoft connector is perfect. An operator, an ACD agent, someone running multiple calls a lot and focused on phone and voice work, put the Mitel Connect client full on the desktop. Still use your Skype for Business for your instant messaging and your communications collaboration, but have that full client at the ready. The next one is there a solution for Mac? And I'll answer that one really quickly. Not at this time. There is Skype for Business for the Mac. Doing all the reading I can do on it is you're pretty much expected that you're going to stay in Skype for Business on the Mac side. I don't know of any Microsoft telephony APIs that allow us to develop telephony connector apps for the PBX back across the Mac OS. And my guess is that's probably just their solution is to keep that basic. Microsoft, of course, being the author of Windows, is going to assume that 85% plus of their customers are using Windows as the primary OS. So you have some options. You can go Skype for Business, use all the Skype calling, everything like that. Or we do have a full Mac client in Mitel Connect, and you can install that on your Mac and have the full telephony function. Again, it's just a matter of what do you do more day by day. If you're a Mac user, are you on the phone more, or are you more of a collaborator, instant messenger, desktop collaboration type person? You still may do both of them, but either way, we have a solution for the Mac, as not as integrated and elegant as it is on the Windows side, but we'll help you pick the right solution if you're a Mac user. That clears the question queue for now, Dan.
Okay, thank you. And I think those are excellent points. And clearly, take a look at the use case, and I think the solution, will present itself. And while I'm on that topic, one of the things that I want to share with you is the fact that once you have selected as a user to go with the Skype for Business client for UC and the Mitel Connect telephony for Microsoft plugin for telephony, don't forget to go into the settings menu inside your Skype for Business client. And when it comes to Skype meetings, be sure you select the appropriate audio line. What this means simply is I can actually choose to utilize my Mitel Connect line for purposes of meetings and conferencing within the Skype for Business environment. So just a little setting I wanted to share with you prior to taking you to the settings menu associated specifically with the Connect client itself. So if we go through the Mitel Connect for telephony for Microsoft settings menu, that's hard to say some days, Dan, but it's accurate. So if we go into call routing, that's one of the things I wanted to share with you. There's a variety of things on this menu. The key differentiator, in my opinion, is the power that the telephony piece brings to this overall environment, and that comes exclusively from Mitel Connect. The call routing involves three basic elements. Number one, if you're utilizing Mitel Mobility, this is an opportunity to tell your system a little bit about the device on which you have installed my mobility client. So you click on that, you give me some information. Then go back to availability routing. Availability routing is exactly what the name implies. Depending upon your availability status as set in the Mitel Connect telephony plugin, you can have an individual greeting, you can ring one or more devices, and you can determine as the user, you are empowered to determine how calls to your business line are handled. That's the second piece. The third piece, and the most important one in my view, is power routing. Power routing is a set of prioritized rules which are ordered and prioritized from top to bottom, and they are always matched and processed in front of availability routing. So now suddenly you can handle the scenario when your most important customer calls you and your availability is something other than available, or even if it is available, you can prioritize his or her call to you, and you do it by simply running a wizard. You go through and create a new power rule. We're going to call this VIP customer. Every criterion that you specify here has to match in order for the rule to process. So you have multiple criteria that you can add to each rule. Now I'm going to drop open this menu real quick and have you take a look at that. If you know the very specific number they're dialing from, put it in. If there's some other parameter you want to specify, select that. Today we're just going to go ahead and use this environment. Let's go ahead and put in this number. Let's suppose that someone dialing from that number reached me and they had actually dialed my office phone. And let's suppose that my availability at that time was I was out of the office on vacation. If all three of those specified parameters are true, the rule will process in front of any availability, and now I can select the destination. I can send it to voicemail, play a ringtone, or send it to my executive assistant. Select that, and I can input a different number. For today's example, let's just send it to voicemail and create the rule. The new rule will arrive at the bottom of my prioritized list, enabled and ready to go. But remember, this list is processed from top to bottom. Let's move it to the top of the list. Now, when your VIP customer calls from the specified caller ID and those conditions are met, that call will get to you no matter what your availability routing might be. And since you started by sharing with the system your mobility information, that can play a role as well. that's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope that our time together has been useful in terms of understanding the best place to use this plugin. Dan's instructions on how to position it need to be listened to and reviewed again. One last question. Do we have any other questions in the queue, Dan?
Yeah, one last question is, I'm a Heritage ShoreTel Connect customer, Mitel Connect now. What licensing tier does this this connector come with? So what do I need as far as a licensing tier to put this on my system?
From the from the standpoint of the Connect licensing, Essentials or Standard would provide this capability.
Or Advanced, I suppose, because Advanced is above.
Right. So I guess, yeah, any of the license bundles that include Essential, Standard, or Advanced would have that capability. The other side of the question really is also very interesting. You know, I don't need any particular enterprise voice licensing or anything on the Microsoft side. I just need to have the Skype for Business client installed on my desktop.
Beautiful. Well, that makes everything easy. And I think that's the last question we have. And I hope this met everybody's needs and time. And we appreciate you joining us for this. Anything else to add, Dan?
No, I think that's it. Let's go out and let's talk about Mitel Connect.